The Galactic Unity ship floated above the peaceful skies of Yalara Prime. Inside the ship, species from dozens of worlds gathered for the annual Peace Summit. Flags, holograms, and glowing banners waved in every direction. But deep inside the diplomatic wing of the ship, something strange, something impossible was about to happen. Gila, a young alien diplomat from the Lyrawin species, walked quickly through the silver corridor. She was graceful, tall, and had skin that shimmered like moonlight. Her glowing blue eyes showed calm intelligence. But today, she was nervous. A human was coming. Humans were still new to the Galactic Council. Powerful, strange, emotional, Jyla had never seen one in person. Her people believed in order and logic. They avoided strong emotions. Most Lyran also believed touching other species was dangerous because of the soul match. Indicator, every Lyran was born with a small crystal, embedded in their palm. That crystal would glow only once in their lifetime when they touched their one true soulmate. Jyla had always kept hers covered with a silk glove. Just ahead, doors opened. The human delegation stepped inside, and then she saw him tall. With brown eyes full of curiosity, the man scanned the room. He looked so alive compared to the calm Lyrian diplomats. He smiled politely, then introduced himself. "My name is James Carter. I'm honored to meet you." Gila bowed slightly. "Welcome, human James." He laughed gently. "Just James's." "Fine." His voice was warm, relaxed, too relaxed. As she turned to guide him into the chamber, something unexpected happened. One of the Lyrian assistants passed by too quickly and bumped into her. Jyla lost balance. She reached out to steady herself, her bare hands slipping free from her glove. James turned quickly to help her hand their hands. Touched it was only a second, but that second changed everything. Jyla's palm burned with heat. She gasped, her knees almost giving out. The soul match indicator on her hand exploded in bright golden light. A loud humming sound filled the room. Every Lyran froze in place. James blinked, confused. Did I do something wrong?" Jyla didn't answer. She looked down at her glowing hand in shock. "No," she whispered to herself. "This can't be." Her soulmate indicator was active. That was supposed to be impossible. Humans were genetically incompatible with Lyran. Their DNA, emotions, biology, everything was different. The golden light dimmed slowly, but the silence in the room remained. She pulled her hand back quickly and stepped away from him. James raised both hands, unsure what to say. "I didn't mean to." Jyla turned and ran. She locked herself in her quarters. Her hands still tingled. Her mind was racing. Ow. Could this happen? She stared at her glowing crystal in the mirror. It pulsed faintly, reacting to something. Far beyond her understanding, her communicator buzzed. She didn't answer. There were too many questions, too much fear. The elders had warned her about forbidden bonds. "Touch only your kind," they had said. "Other species cannot bond. They do not belong in our soul network." And yet, here she was, marked not by a Lyra end, but by a human. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Jyla," soft voice called. It was Elder Mireille. "Open the door, child." She did. The elder's eyes fell on her glowing palm. Her face turned pale. "You touched the human?" Mira asked, her voice shaking. "I didn't mean to. It was an accident." "Did your mark activate?" Jyla nodded slowly. The elder took a deep breath and looked at her with worry. "Then we have a problem." Back in the diplomatic chamber, James sat alone. Several Lyran guards stood near the exits. Whispering into their cums, he stared at his hand, the one that touched Jyla. Nothing seemed strange. And yet he couldn't shake the feeling that something big had happened. The crystal on her hand, how it glowed like fire, was that normal? He didn't know it yet. But touching Jyla had awakened something ancient. Something sacred among her people. Something no human was ever supposed to touch. Gila didn't sleep that night. She sat on the cold floor of her quarters, staring at her palm at the crystal that had once been dull and lifeless, now glowing with soft golden pulses. Each beat of the light felt like a whisper calling her. Name James. The name echoed in her mind like a forbidden song. She covered the crystal with her glove again, then pulled it off, and wore it again. Her chest felt tight, her breath shallow. She wasn't supposed to feel this way. Lyran were trained. From birth to control emotion. Soul matches were rare. Most Lyran never experienced one in their lifetime. And when they did, it was always with one of their own kind. Never a human. Never a knock came again, Jyla. Elder Mire's voice was low, cautious. The council wants answers. I have none to give, Jyla replied through the door. It was a mistake, a glitch, that's all. But even she didn't believe her own words. Meanwhile, James sat in the observation deck, alone. The stars stretched endlessly outside the glass window. He sipped the strange alien tea they had given him, tasted like mint and ash. Nice first day, he muttered to himself. He hadn't seen Jyla since she ran. The guards now followed him like shadows, even though no one told him why. He replayed the moment again and again in his head, the way her hand lit up, the way she looked at him with wide, almost scared eyes. He thought it was just a cultural accident. Maybe he had crossed some line. Then he remembered her whisper. This can't be. Something was wrong, and he was stuck in the middle of it. Inside her private chamber, Gila activated her family archive crystal. A glowing tree of ancestral data shimmered in the air before her. She searched the records for any mention of human compatibility, of unusual bond reactions, of ... mistakes, nothing, except ... One restricted file, old, sealed, labeled the Firelink anomaly. Gila paused. Her hand hovered over the unlock rune, then she shut the system down. No, she whispered. This is not real. I don't believe it. She stood, dressed in her diplomatic robe, and walked toward the main chamber. She would end this today. The council chamber was quiet when she entered. Elders, diplomats, healers, they all looked at her, some with concern, some with cold judgment. You touched the human, one of them said, and your mark responded. Jyla kept her eyes low. It was an error. You call your soul mark. A malfunction? Another elder asked sharply. There must be a scientific explanation, Jyla insisted. Cross-species resonance, energy static, a mimic glitch, anything. Elder Mir's voice was softer. ZHYLA ... Did you feel anything else? Gila paused, her fingers clenched at her sides. Her voice came out small. No, a lie. Later that evening, James found Jyla standing on the ship's quiet viewing platform. She didn't turn when he approached. I didn't mean to make things worse, he said carefully. You didn't, she said coldly. I'm guessing that's another lie. Gila turned then, and for the first time since the incident, looked him directly in the eyes. Whatever you think happened, didn't. But your hand means nothing. She snapped. The sudden anger in her voice surprised even. She looked away again. You're a human. You're not compatible. Our bond markers are not designed for your species. I don't know how it happened, but I'll find the reason and undo it. James was silent for a moment. Then he stepped closer. You're scared, he said softly. Jyla flinched. I am Lyran. I do not fear that crystal lit up like the sun. I saw your face. Something changed in you and it's changing still. Jyla's hands trembled. She quickly turned and walked away. Behind her, James whispered, If it's real, I'm not going anywhere. In her quarters, Gila sat by her bed, her head buried in her arms. The glow on her palm pulsed again, brighter than before. No matter how much she denied it, she couldn't escape the truth anymore. The lights were dim in the Hall of Ancestry. Gila walked slowly between the tall crystal pillars, each one humming with the voices of Lyran past, echoes of history, memories from generations. Only Lyran with activated soul match marks were allowed to step this deep into the archives. She wasn't here to honor her bond. She was here to erase it. Her palm still glowed faintly beneath her glove. She clutched it tight, hoping no one would see. hoping the voices of the past wouldn't notice. Her fear, but the crystals did notice. One flickered alive as she passed. Then another. Then a deep, low chime echoed. The chamber responded to her presence. It knew. In a far-off control deck, Elder Myre stood watching the security feed. "It has begun," she whispered. The commander beside her frowned. "What has—" "The Firelink," Myre said. She triggered the ancient bond. The commander stiffened. "That's just a myth." "No," Myre shook her head. "It's prophecy." Lyrene's mark responding to someone outside the network. Not another Lyran, not someone registered, but something ... older. Jyla reached the center of the hall, where a giant stone tablet stood covered in dust and warning glyphs. She placed her hand on the scanner. The ancient lock blinked red. Access denied. The system chirped, but her mark suddenly pulsed in. The stone clicked. Gila stepped back in shock. The tablet slid open, revealing a glowing archive cube. It hovered in the air and spoke in an ancient tongue. "One of fire will bond with one of chaos, and the stars will burn again." Shyla's heart thumped loudly in her chest. The prophecy was real. Back in his room, James stared at his hand again. He had taken a blood sample earlier and run it through his portable med kit. No strange bacteria, no sign of disease, but he did find one anomaly of faint resonance in his DNA, like a signal trying to connect to something outside his body. And every time he thought of Gila, the signal grew stronger. Hours later, a guard arrived at his door. "You are summoned?" "Where?" James asked. "To the testing chamber." James sat quietly inside a strange circular room. Dozens of Lyran scientists moved around him, holding strange tools, glowing readers, and tiny drones. Jyla watched from behind a glass wall hidden from his view. "Subject appears stable," one tech said. "Begin resonance scan," said another. They activated a machine above James's head. It let out a soft humming noise. Then boom, a surge of golden light burst from his body. The soul match frequency, same as Gila's. The whole chamber went silent. Then, without warning, his pulse synced. With hers miles apart, through walls, through technology, Jyla gasped. She could feel his heart. In the testing room, James sat up. "What's happening?" one Lyran technician whispered. This isn't just a soul match. What is it then?" James asked, trying to stay calm. The elder stepped forward, her voice grim. "You are part of an ancient connection once thought impossible. A bond that existed before even our science could explain it. Something sacred. Something dangerous." "What kind of bond?" The elder looked at him seriously. "Souls are now ... linked." Sheila stumbled back from the window. Linked. That meant the bond was already forming inside them both. Quietly, deeply, and once complete it couldn't be undone. She pressed her hand against her chest. She didn't ask for this. She didn't want this. So why did it feel ... right outside? The chamber of the High Council met in emergency. "If they complete the bond," one elder warned, "there is no turning back." "And if we try to break it?" asked another. "We don't know what happens when a fire link is forcefully broken. It's never been done." One young general spoke coldly. "Then we better find out, before it's too late." Far away, in her private chamber again, Sheila looked up at the stars. She could feel James's emotions, his confusion, his concern, and beneath all of it, something even more dangerous. His growing affection. The testing chamber wasn't made for comfort. It was cold. White walls, silver floors, and flickering lights above gave it the feel of a prison more than a lab. James sat in the center, strapped loosely to a reclining seat. He wasn't a prisoner, but he wasn't free either. 2 Lyran guards stood by the door. 5 scientists in pale robes circled around him, whispering terms he didn't understand. Gila watched from behind a dark glass wall. No one told her to be there. She simply had to be. Her fingers trembled inside her sleeves. This was no longer about diplomacy. It was about what he was and what she had become after touching him, the chief scientist. A pale-skinned Lyran named Sci-Fi stepped forward. "Human," he said, "we will now scan your neural pathways, genetic patterns, and emotional signals. We must understand the link." James looked up, and "If you don't like what you find," no one answered. A humming machine lowered from the ceiling. Small lights blinked as it hovered just above his forehead. Gila's heart pounded faster with every beep. Then flash, chamber filled with golden light. James jerked in the seat, not from pain but from sensation. A warmth spread through his chest, into his arms, through his fingertips, from the observation room. Gila clutched her own chest. Her breathing changed, matched his. She was sinking with him without touch, without words. Just through the bond? Inside the lab, the machine spun faster. Pulse match confirmed. A technician called out. Emotional signals synced. Energy frequency climbing. "He's changing." One of the elders stepped back. "This is more than bonding. God, this is merging." James groaned. "I feel like I'm floating." His eyes flicked open, and for a brief second he saw a vision. Gila, but not how she looked now. She stood in a storm, her skin glowing, her body surrounded by golden fire. She was screaming. His name. Then the vision snapped away. He blinked. "Ow! What the hell was that?" In the control booth, Elder Mir whispered, "The fire link is accelerating. The human's brain is trying to match Lyron thought patterns." "That could kill him," a younger healer said. Keela's voice broke through. "Then stop the test." "No," Sivan replied coldly. "This is the only way to understand how deep the link has gone." Suddenly James gasped. "Sheila," he whispered. Sheila froze. He couldn't see her. The glass was one way, but he still called her. Name he felt her. Then came the final scan. A long crystal arm lowered from above, pointed at James's chest. It began to glow, red searching for the bond's anchor. "Last phase," said Sivan. "If the bond is shallow, we can extract it." "And if it's deep?" one tech asked. Sivan didn't answer. The machine's light turned from red to violet, then to gold. Everyone gasped. That color .con confirmed irreversible soul fusion. Sheila stepped back from the glass. As if struck it was done, even without her wanting it, the bond was permanent. James blinked hard. The light faded. He looked around, exhausted. "What happened?" he asked softly. Sivan looked at him like he was looking at a star for the first time. "You're no longer fully human," he whispered. "You carry Lyran energy now. Your mind has rewritten itself to fit hers." James tried to stand but stumbled. The guards caught him. Kyla couldn't watch anymore. She ran. Later, in her chamber, she stared at the ancient archive cube again. Firelink. Bonds were gifts, the old voice inside it had said. But they demanded a cost. Gila now understood. The cost wasn't pain. It was choice. The bond didn't ask. It simply ... became. And now, James was part of her whether she liked it or not. Gila stood in front of the mirror, but the girl staring back wasn't the same. Her eyes, once a calm shade of icy blue, now glowed faintly gold like James's aura during the testing. Her skin shimmered oddly under the light, the color warmer than before. Her breath came quicker, her heart raced more often, and the strangest part, she could hear him, not with her ears, but deep inside her thoughts. When James woke in his room hours ago, with a sharp pain in his chest, she felt it. When he smiled after drinking something sweet, her lips curled too, without meaning to. They were no longer just linked, they were becoming one. Gila sat down, trying to focus, but her senses were out of control. Her fingers twitched, her body heat rose, her skin ached in ways she couldn't describe. It felt like she was molting, like her own body was tearing away from the Lyrian form it once knew. She called the med station. Hoping for a logical answer, the AI scan replied calmly, "Your cellular pattern is rewriting itself. New genome detected. Human DNA strain. Integrated." She froze. Estimated transformation. 12% complete. In the ship's observation dome, James sat cross-legged watching the stars. His chest still ached, but not from pain, from absence. Jyla wasn't near, and that hurt more than he expected. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was something powerful. Something primal. Like a pull from the center of his bones. He whispered her name without thinking. And back in her quarters, Sela gasped. She stormed into Elder Myre's chamber. Her fists clenched. What is happening to me? The elder turned calmly, but concern filled her eyes the moment she saw Gila's face. Your energy has changed. I don't want this bond, Gila shouted. I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose him. The elder nodded slowly. That's the nature of Firelink, child. It is not something you choose. It chooses you. Gila backed away, trembling. You told me this was just a myth? A story from ancient times. I told you what we were allowed to believe, Myre replied. The truth was buried, until you awakened it. Outside the council chambers, whispers filled the air. She's changing. She walks like a Lyrian, but carries human scent now. Her blood no longer matches her birth records. Some looked at her with fear. Others with disgust. But one Captain RH and a high-ranking warrior watched her with something more dangerous obsession. That night, Shkila collapsed in her room. Her body burned. Sweat poured down her back. Her limbs felt stretched, reshaped, her vision blurred, then sharpened sharper than Lyran eyes ever could. She crawled to the mirror again. This time, the reflection shocked her. Her face was still hers, but slightly different. Softer, rounder. Her cheeks carried a hint of human warmth. Her voice cracked when she whispered, James. Her bond was not only inside her mind now, it was rewriting her soul. Elsewhere, James stood before the Lyran council. I demand to see her, he said. The elders glared at him. You've already changed her, one spat. I never asked to. And yet another elder growled. She bleeds with your heat. Your presence burns in her like fire. James stepped forward. Then teach me how to fix it. Elder Mira stood. You can't. Fix fate. Later that night, Skila's room door slid open, and James was there. She had no idea how he got past security, but the moment their eyes met, she knew. Her fingers reached out before she could stop herself. Their hands met again, and this time her body didn't resist. It welcomed him. The glow from her palms surged one final time, and then vanished. The bond had fully settled, no turning back now. The emergency lights flashed red dot. Every hallway on the Lyran vessel went on lockdown. Guards rushed to their stations. Council members shouted across comms. The order had been given. Separate the human from the girl. Now, it's in her room, Gila woke with a jolt. Pain hit her chest like a blade. Not physical, emotional. The bond screamed. James was being pulled away. No. She gasped, stumbling out of bed. Her legs felt weak. Her hands shook. She ran barefoot through the corridor, still, glowing faintly with golden light. James, meanwhile, was dragged through a narrow tunnel by two guards. His wrists were bound. He didn't resist yet. Where are you taking me? He asked. One guard growled, away from her. For it's too late. James clenched his jaw. It already is. Back in the control chamber, Elder Myre stood. Before the High Council. Do you even understand what you're doing? She demanded. Elder Threx snapped back. We're protecting our species. You're committing bond murder, she said coldly. Threx hesitated but refused to back down. That bond is unnatural. If it completes fully, we may lose her. And worse, the human might become Lyrian. What happens then? Chaos. Gila reached the docking bay. The shuttle holding James was preparing to launch. She didn't wait for permission. She ran through guards, through security barriers, her body glowing brighter with every step. Every system she passed sparked and flickered. The bond was waking up, and it did not want to be broken. James turned just as the door opened violently. Jyla. Her body trembled, but she stood strong. Her hand reached out, and so did his. The guards tried to stop them too late. Their palms touched, and the air exploded with golden energy. A pulse ripped through the chamber. Machinery sparked, lights burst. Everyone was knocked to the ground, but Gila and James stood tall at the center of it all, unmoved, unbroken. The soul mark on Gila's hand lit up one last time, then ... vanished completely. Not because it failed, but because it was no longer needed. The bond had passed beyond symbols. It had become part of their bones, their minds, their cells. Guards rose slowly, eyes wide with fear. One whispered, "What ... are they?" Ash, Sheila turned toward them calmly. Powerfully, "I am Liren." She glanced at James, "And he is mine." Elder Myre watched from the council. Chamber feed, her eyes filled with tears. "It's done," she said quietly. "No force in the galaxy can separate them now." Later, James and Gila sat together in silence. Her head rested on his shoulder. "I felt everything." "Ouch," she whispered. "When they touched you, when they pulled you away, when you cried silently, I heard it." James smiled gently. "And when you came for me, ... I knew I wasn't alone anymore." The council held one final meeting. They had two options: accept the bond, or destroy them. Both. But no one spoke the second option aloud. Not after what they saw. Not after feeling the pulse of soul fire in the air. Even the most ancient ones were afraid. The chamber was silent, high above the galactic council floor. All eyes were locked on to figure standing hand in hand. A Liren, girl with glowing gold in her eyes, and the human man who changed everything. They didn't speak, they didn't need. Two, their presence alone sent a message. We are one. Aldereth Rex stood slowly. This cannot be allowed. You've broken the laws of nature. Gila looked at him calmly. Then rewrite them. Whispers filled the great chamber. To some, elders turned away. Others stared at her with something close to awe. Behind the council table, a choice waited. Approve the bond and change Liren society forever, or declare them dangerous and erase them both. For hours, arguments rose. Some shouted, some begged, but nothing changed the truth. The bond was complete. And every second they tried to fight it, Liren's systems kept reacting. Energy fields pulsed. Artificial weather spun out of sync. The ship's AI refused to issue commands when they were near. Even the ancient archives had rewritten. Gila's bloodline history, new branch created, Gila of Firelink. Bondmate, human erosion, confirmed. They weren't just bonded, they had become a new beginning at sunset. Gila and James were summoned one last time. The elder speaker, oldest of all Liren, stood before them. His voice shook with emotion. Many fear you, some hate you, but all of us felt you. He paused, then bowed his head. Go. The council will not stand in your way. The bond is no longer yours alone, belongs to the future. They walked out of the council chambers. In silence. Outside, Liren's citizens had gathered. They parted like water as the couple walked through. Cheers. No violence. Just stunned respect. A few even bowed their heads as they passed. Weeks later, the hidden garden near the planets, Gila sat beside James. She touched her belly gently. It's begun, she said softly. James blinked. You mean, she nodded? A life, formed by both of us, Liren and human. He took her hand. And what will they be? She smiled. Proof. Across the stars, other worlds began to ask questions. Could humans bond with other species? Humans, more than just strong survivors, were they? Soul weavers, galactic scientists opened new studies. Old laws were reviewed. Peace treaties were rewritten. And the Lyrian, once the most rigid and tradition-bound race in the galaxy, now had a legend living among them. ZHYLA and James, the first Firelink, and far away, in the archive of echoes. A new prophecy was added to became one. One became many, and from that spark, the stars learned how to love again.